नहीं मैम, उसके अगर उसको सैटरडे नहीं, अगर आ पाएंगे तो उसका मैम एवरी सैटरडे एक्यूमुलेट होता जाएगा फिर, क्योंकि मैम मैं वर्किंग हूँ, मेरे पास इतना टाइम होता नहीं है कि मैं उसको काम करा सकूँ। इसलिए मुझे yes, यही रीजन है, नहीं तो सेकंड क्लास से बच्चे को पढ़ाना कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है। मैं खुद अपने मैं खुद भी 10 नहीं मैम, उसके अगर उसको सैटरडे नहीं, अगर आ पाएंगे तो उसका मैम एवरी सैटरडे एक्यूमुलेट होता जाएगा।
Good afternoon, everyone. We welcome you all to the British Council Delhi. A few housekeeping announcements before we start the program today. We request everyone to be careful while using the stairs and avoid movement during the program. And please avoid handshaking and close personal greetings. And always keep your face mask on while you are inside the British Council premises. Hand sanitizers placed around the venue can be used as required. During the question and answer session, please do not share the microphone with others. Our support staff is there to assist you. There are emergency exit doors on your left and right, 2 doors on the upper level and 2 at the lower level. In case of any emergency, please use the nearest exit. In case of any alarms, please remain seated and don't panic. There will be volunteers and staff on duty to guide you for your way out. Washrooms are located at ground level and lower level. Exit from the gates at the ground and lower level. Lastly, to avoid any disturbance and for everyone to enjoy the program, please keep your mobile phones on silent. Flash photography is not allowed at this event. In case of any assistance, please contact the staff on duty. Your cooperation with our security and sanitization procedures is appreciated. We wish you a great day ahead. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to the Competency-Based Education Project, Open Day 1. I am Peenal Rana, Senior Manager from the school's English and Skills team, and I'll be your host for this afternoon. We welcome all on behalf of the British Council and CBSE. A very warm welcome to all the guests present here and to the guests who've joined us virtually. British Council, in partnership with the Central Board of Secondary Education, is working to bring a systematic change in the school education system and move away from rote learning to the competency-based teaching and learning. Through hands-on training, we have supported the development of test item writers and upskill teachers to deliver high-quality lessons which are competency and skill-focused. In addition to this, and for the benefit of all the CBSE school, exemplar material has been developed to support the school and teachers to move away from rote teaching and learning to competency-based approach. I'm sure you're all eagerly waiting for us to begin this event. I would now request my colleague to play the video to keep you up to date on the progress of the project so far. There seems to be a technical glitch. Meanwhile, I would request Rowan Kennedy. Okay, sure.
Rote learning has been a common practice in schools across India. A system defined by memorization. A system that focuses more on content-based learning. With the visionary National Education Policy 2020, the focus has now shifted from content to competency. The new policy calls for a breakdown in artificial barriers between subjects and development of higher order thinking skills. It highlights the need for an assessment system that encourages real learning. Competency-based learning enables high-quality education in real-life context. It emphasizes on predefined competencies at each level of the student's learning journey and takes them beyond the confines of their textbook, linking their learning to life. To support competency-based education, British Council entered into a partnership with the Central Board of Secondary Education in March 2020 and launched the Competency-Based Education Project. As a part of this project, British Council and its knowledge partner Alpha Plus, in partnership with CBSE India, present the Competency-Based Assessment Framework. Designed in collaboration with UK experts, the assessment framework provides professional development to education system leaders, teachers, and examination designers. Under the direction and guidance of CBSE, the project uses assessment as a driver and motivator of change in teaching quality in the classroom. Overall, the Competency-Based Education Project provides mentorship support for the teachers, embeds new learning into classroom teaching practice, guides reading, English, maths, and science teachers of classes 6 to 10 to drive practical learning, strengthens the capacity of schools to create high-quality competency-based question papers. This project will directly support 15 education leaders, 2,000 school principals, 15 senior government leaders, 180 test item writers, 360 master trainers, which will further impact 25,000 CBSE schools that include 2,000 JNVs and KVs, 132,000 teachers and 20 million learners by 2024. 4 high-profile UK organizations will contribute their expertise to the project. The Competency-Based Education Project aims to bring about systemic change in teaching, learning, and assessment practices by 2024. The project will not only make a lasting impact on the education ecosystem, but will also help students realize their potential so that they can fully contribute to making the country and the world safe, sustainable, prosperous, and peaceful.
So that was the project video. I would now request Rowan Kennedy, Deputy Director, British Council, India, to come up on stage and give us a welcome note.
Thanks. I think I'm allowed to take my mask off here, aren't I? Good, and I'm glad we got to see the video. It wouldn't be a hybrid event in this day and age if we didn't have the odd tiny technical glitch. Good afternoon, everyone. As Pinal said, my name is Rowan Kennedy. I'm Deputy Director of the British Council in India. And I'd like to start off by extending a very warm welcome to all our colleagues from CBSE, to school heads, to teachers, to educators, to this platform, by which I mean physically here in the British Council's office in Delhi, but also to this online platform where we're celebrating the success and the achievements of the Competency-Based Education Project. I'd also like to offer my congratulations to each and every one of you who's been part of this exciting journey so far. As you've seen from the film, the British Council, in partnership with CBSE, launched the Competency-Based Education Project in March 2020. And this is a really unique assessment reform project that's working to strengthen the school system and to support improved learner outcomes so that we can better prepare students with the skills they need for success in the 21st century. As was said in the video, the basic aim of the project is to shift assessment from a focus on recall and rote learning towards a focus on competency-based assessment. So to move from content to competency. And in this, of course, it's very much aligned to India's National Education Policy 2020. At the British Council, we're delighted to have been able to bring the best of the UK's experience and knowledge to support the Government of India, to support the Ministry of Education, and to support CBSE to achieve the ambitious goals of the NEP in schools across the country. Our team have been working closely with CBSE and with our UK partners, Cambridge, ECTIS, NARIC, Alpha Plus, and the University of Bath, to create samples of good practice, to train assessment designers, test item writers, master trainers, mentors, and to provide inputs to senior leadership to lead this change in an inclusive, sustainable, and participatory manner. And we've now reached perhaps the most important stage of the project, in which we need to scale up to reach all 25,000 CBSE schools. An important step in that process is communicating the project to school principals and school leaders, which is why we've organised our 3 open days today, tomorrow, and Thursday. At the British Council, we're deeply committed to driving systemic change within the schools ecosystem in India, and we're really proud to be a partner and an enabler for so many of you. We very much hope that through working in partnership, we'll empower schools to build their ability to create the skills and environment they need to provide high quality, competency-based education that's called for in the National Education Policy. So just before I close, let me take this opportunity on behalf of the British Council to thank all of you for giving us your time today. I'd like to say particular thanks to our friends and colleagues at CBSE and to our partners in the UK, Cambridge, ECTIS, Alpha Plus, and University of Bath. And I'd also like to say a special thank you to the Ministry of Education and to name check 2 people there who've really supported the project and championed it from day one. That's Nita Prasad and Anita Karwal. Without the support from the Ministry of Education, of course, we would not have been able to do any of the work that we've done so far. So in conclusion, it's a real pleasure to be here today. And thank you once again for joining us. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing your experiences of your work on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Rowan. Now, may I request the Chairman CBSE, Mr. Manoj Ahuja, sir, to come and address the audience.
Thank you. Mr. Rowan Kennedy and his team from the British Council and their partners who've been working on this project, my colleagues from CBSE who are present here, and teachers and representatives from school who are present here. A very good afternoon. And I think it's a sign of the changing times that perhaps this is the first meeting at this scale we are having in this auditorium after the COVID pandemic, which still continues, but I'm sure this is a harbinger of change, which we all envisage and coming back to normalcy. I'd like to, at the outset, thank British Council and their partners in working with CBSE in coming out for a, as I would call it, an entire ecosystem for a competency-based education system, which means right from assessment frameworks for standard 6 to 10th, developing item blueprints, developing items, standard question papers, if I can call it like that, and training resources. The whole idea or the strategy is to put the teacher in the center and empower the teachers. If the changes which are envisaged in the national education policy are to fructify or transform into reality, we all of us believe that it is the teachers who will lead that change. I think the teacher is the focus and the center of any strategy or any change which is envisaged in a system as huge and decentralized as an education system. You've all, I think you've seen the video, and Mr. Kennedy also did mention about what the British Council and their partners have done. I would just like to give you a perspective about it. It's fundamentally the national education policy is talking about making education more meaningful and interesting for students. It need not be a chore for students or some arduous or hard work to go into schools to, be given knowledge through means of textbooks, which try to push as much as possible into their mind. The whole approach is, which I think educationalists across the globe have repeatedly said, that it should be interesting, meaningful in the sense it should be connected with what the child is living. It should be more joyful. And if we are able to do that, then I'm sure each and every child can use his own imagination, his ability, his uniqueness to learn, and in a way which he connects with the reality he's living in, and then can attain his potential as a human being. And therefore, this shift from pushing content into a child's mind, from one where it's related to the world in which he is living, which makes him think, makes him understand, makes him more involved, makes him a part of construction of learning. And essentially, that is what I would say the national education policy primarily aims at when we say a shift from rote learning to competency-based learning. But then how do we go about it? The ideas are there. The roadmap is very clear. What we want to do is very clear. The issue is how do we do it? And there fundamentally, I think, like I would repeat and reiterate that fundamentally it's very important that our teachers should be empowered, should be given the resources and the space in which they can bring about this change. So the strategy which CBSE is following is British Council and their partners have developed these learning frameworks and what you saw on the video for classes 6 and 10. We are doing it for classes 11th and 12th also, and you would have known about it because we've notified that the board exams the question papers would be changing. We are bringing in 10% competency-based questions every year. So by 2025, it should about half the paper should be competency-based. As somebody said, assessment can warp education. And the fact is that we understand very clearly that if we ask rote-based questions in class 10th and 12th, then the whole educational system would have incentives to teach in that manner. And that in reality means you go back learning through previous question papers, learn to just for the exam and score high marks. And in some cases, it may be diverse from actual learning. And therefore, this we feel would give a push for the entire sector to realign towards competency-based learning and bring about the necessary pedagogical changes right from, let's say, middle school to upwards till class 11th and 12th. Along with it, we have, and we'll be introducing it this year, competency-based assessment for CBSE schools at grade 3, 5, and 8 level. Again, these are competency-based assessments and would be linked to learning outcomes, which NCERT has, and would be standardized, which means the entire process of designing, which you've been doing, like designing items, pilot testing them, testing them, would be there. And then we would, like a similar framework which we have developed from 6th to 10th, we would also come 4th to 5th, because for 3rd it is already there. The Nipun framework which has come, and I don't know how many of you have seen the CBSE website, which has a lot of resources there for teachers in terms of items, in terms of training resources, and in terms of other resources. So the entire, let's say, K to 12 classes, we would be covering through this strategy. And as I said, that it's a whole package. It includes assessment frameworks, which will guide teachers in terms of their pedagogy. They can make it very clear to students would know what are they going to be assessed on. And essentially, if it is concepts, not contents, that's the way things would happen. The pedagogy would accordingly change. The resources which the teachers need in terms of pedagogy, in terms of designing these kind of items would be available for teachers. And which was pointed out very clearly, master trainers and other trainers would be trained in that. And a number of you are already partners in this mission. So this marks a huge change in the way education in India would be, let's say, entering a new paradigm, and very essential when we talk about 21st century skills, when we talk about the demographic dividend, when we talk about the large numbers of young people in India, when we talk about the future of jobs, when we talk about a global kind of a mindset, a digital mindset, and a critical thinking and a creative mindset, when all these technologies are coming in, the changes we are in. So it's very important. And as I said, the idea is to do it right. And that's where the challenge lies. And we are going about or thinking about it very systematically, but we do look forward to your feedback. And we believe that it's a journey which we need to take in collaboration. Everybody who can contribute should be a partner in this journey. And it's a journey, if we could put it, it may be too presumptuous, but well begun. And wherever course correction is necessary, wherever changes are necessary, it's an iterative process, which, as I said, we would work with the agencies, the institutions, the people across the globe who have these skills and competencies and who can add value, and with all of you. And we do hope that whatever changes we are introduced, starting from this project, would bring in a significant change in our education system in the coming 3 years. I do look forward to that, because I think the enormity and the impact is very high. Not doing it has huge losses. Not putting this kind of an education in front of children, making them a part of it, not changing it, has a huge, let's say, opportunity cost to it. And that's why it's of utmost important. It's doable if all of us get resources, which we can all do, and implement it properly and deliver a product which is useful for everybody. If you're able to do that, it's going to pick up on its own. It's going to spread on its own. And we, like I said, we do look forward to your support and collaboration and working together in this journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. May I request you to be on stage as we proceed with the launch event? So now we will proceed with the launch of lesson plans and question banks. May I also request the following members to come on stage for the launch event? Mr. Joseph Emmanuel, Director Academics. Ms. Shweta Singh, Joint Secretary Academic, CBSE. Rowan Kennedy, Deputy Director, British Council, India. Rashi Jain, Director, North India, British Council. Ms. Ritika Chanda Parag, Director, Education, British Council. Gauri Puranik, Assistant Director, Schools and English. Rebecca Ronson, Senior Academic Manager, British Council. And Parul Gupta, Head Education, British Council. We will also have Deepanjan Chakrabarti, Director, East India. Janaka Pushpanathan, Director, South India. And Jovan, Director, West India, joining us virtually for this launch. Apart from this, we will also have our UK-based project partners, Alpha Plus and Cambridge team, joining us virtually for the launch. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the launch of the lesson plans and the question banks. Please. Can we hold the photographs together for the launch photograph? For the photo purpose, you are allowed to remove your mask. Thank you, everyone. May I request everyone to take their seats now? And Chairman Sir and Rowan, please stay back on the stage for the launch of the CBSE micro website. Can we have the microsites up on the screen? So till the time the microsite is up, on this website, you'll find the learning framework, teacher resources, and question banks, which are mapped to the NCERT curricular framework and meets the demand of the relevant aspects of the CBSE curriculum. I would now like to call on stage Rebecca Ronson, Senior Academic Manager, British Council, to give us an overview of the CBSE CBE project. Can we have Rebecca's presentation on the screen?
So this screen needs to be shared, right?
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please bear with us. We're just reconnecting and coming to the presentation.
I can do it with
Yep.
I can try that presentation. Yeah.
Take
I don't
one
know,
map,
wait,
first
I'll
one.
try. Okay.
Extremely sorry, everyone, for this technical glitch because we're trying to connect the Zoom and the YouTube live, which is actually causing all these issues. We will go ahead without the presentation. Sorry for this inconvenience.
Okay, this is going to be a real test of my memory. So I do apologize in advance if I mix up a little thing, if it gets a bit confusing, but I'll try and explain what I was going to show you visually with the power of gesture and words. Hopefully, inshallah. You're going to save me? No, it's not there. Okay. I'm holding it. It's okay.
यहाँ तो आ गई यहाँ भी हुआ
Okay, I can do it. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we'll give this a go. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about give you an overview of the CBSE competency-based project, competency-based education project in partnership with the CBSE. I want to talk through the key aspects of the program, its vision and objectives, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the key findings from the initial scoping report that was carried out last year. But let's start with competency-based education and what that is. So competency-based education is an approach to teaching, learning, and assessment, which focuses on the student's ability to demonstrate learning outcomes and attaining proficiency in particular competencies in each subject. And it does that by empowering students, by providing them with meaningful and positive learning experiences, by placing the learner at the center and engaging them in the learning process. It has a real focus on real-world application of skills and knowledge, so that it's authentic learning and it prepares students for the wider world once they leave education. Running throughout the approach is equity and differentiated support, again, placing the learner at the center. And when it comes to assessment, it's a real advocate of the use of formative assessment to guide teaching and learning. And with summative assessment, it's important that it's robust and valid and has these measures around it. So we've talked, Mr. Manoj and Rowan Kennedy have already talked a little bit about the project and its vision. So repeating again that the aim of this project is to strengthen the capacity of CBSE affiliated schools to deliver high quality competency-based assessment and competency-based lessons that support students in English, reading, maths and science, particularly those classes from classes 6 to 10. And it's doing that through the key objectives of building capacity within assessment, building capacity in pedagogy, and providing resources that teachers and assessment writers can use in their own professional practice, but also as a model of standards for when they're developing further resources. Okay, so the impact is going to be widely felt through CBSE is pursuing this unique project, the first of its kind in India, to support the teaching and learning and assessment of students. The impact will be felt by, by schools and educators affiliated with CBSE, providing them with the capacity and the resources to do so. Learners will see a gradual shift from content-heavy, knowledge-focused learning to more learning which emphasizes deeper learning pedagogies, enabling them to achieve the learning outcomes that's so important for them. And as we mentioned earlier, we hope that to see a wider impact on the education ecosystem as other exam boards and governments can see this project in action, can replicate and adapt it to their needs and contexts. So the project itself has 4 main strands of activities. The first is a scoping review, which was carried out last year, looking at the current Standard 10 assessment framework, CBSE, and then using that to recommend certain paths forward. And then the rest of the project has been in response to those recommendations. An assessment framework was developed. Capacity has been built in terms of assessment for assessment writers, assessment assignments, item writers, in pedagogy with teachers, teacher mentors, master trainers, and with the development of a bank of resources. The scoping review was the first round of activity I mentioned, and that was carried out mostly through last year. The UK partner doing that was UK NARIC, which has since been renamed ECTIS. They met and engaged with a wide range of stakeholders, students, teachers, principals, through site visits, focus groups, online surveys and interviews. They undertook a literature review of the current syllabuses and assessments at Standard 10 in CBSE, and they compared them with equivalent assessments in other countries such as Malaysia, New Zealand, Estonia. And from that, they found that the current system has certainly got some key strengths. The first of those is that there's a strong theoretical content base in the syllabus, which does prepare students for more advanced studies. There are already some features of competency-based education approaches in the assessment, and also, some teachers are already drawing on NCRT learning outcomes when planning their own learning outcomes. And there's a great deal of positivity from teachers and school leaders in the curriculum in terms of its breadth and coverage. So in terms of the recommendations, if I can try and remember these. So there were about 5 or 6 key recommendations, and these were areas where the system could be strengthened and made more relevant for the needs of students and employers in the future. They focused on strengthening the validity and consistency of the syllabus itself, having a greater focus on higher order thinking skills, increasing engagement with employers and universities, getting their input so you can build in those key employability skills. For example, potentially using calculators in maths and science exams so that students are able to tackle real-world complex problems. In languages like English, focusing on communication so that students are able to communicate in the language. Second recommendation was in facilitating the validity of assessment, making assessment more valid by training, for example, item writers on accessibility, using authentic sources, integrating visuals into their questions, and integrating NCRT learning outcomes more concretely. The third was increasing reliability and transparency in assessment, so having more detailed marking schemes and providing training on how to use those, reducing the number of questions in assessments because more choice decreases the reliability of assessment, and using external moderation for internal assessments for quality assurance. The fourth recommendation was focusing on fairness and the student experience. So we can make assessments more accessible by using scaffolding and structured questions. We can simplify the language of questions, so we're testing students' ability to answer the actual question, to apply their knowledge rather than to understand the question itself. We can simplify the layout of questions to make papers more accessible. And then the last one was enhancing teacher support and developing pedagogy, creating a data bank of resources to support teachers, providing guidance documentation, and using competency-based approaches in the classroom. So I hope you can see that these recommendations have been addressed by the project activities through building a more robust assessment framework, building capacity, and developing this bank of resources, which you saw, which are now on the CBSE web microsite. So that's a quick run through, and I apologise for the visuals not being there to support the words, but I hope you've got an understanding of what the project was aiming to achieve and what it has achieved so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca. We extremely apologize for the technical glitch that has happened, but we aim to continue with the event in a good spirit. As part of this project, 3 days assessment designer training was organized by CBSE in collaboration with British Council and Alpha Plus, a UK-based agency that has been commissioned for this task. The program aimed to build capacity of CBSE teachers for developing high-quality assessments. We will now take this opportunity to honor these participants with their certificates. Due to COVID restrictions, we could not invite all the participants for the face-to-face event. However, we congratulate you all and will ensure that your certificate reaches you at the earliest. I would like to call Mr. Manoj Ahuja to come on stage and give certificates to these participants, please. Rowan, if you could accompany, sir. So, ma'am, we will start with you, Ms. Shweta Singh, Joint Secretary, Academic, CBSE. Congratulations, ma'am. Ms. Anjali Chabra, again from CBSE. Sure. We move on to next. Asta Sharma, Mayur School, Noida. Congratulations, Ms. Asta. Asta Sharma. Next, we have Abha Dua, Lotus Ali International School, Noida. Next in line, we have Himani Jain, St. Columba School, Delhi. Congratulations, ma'am. Then we have Kanika Vadera, Alcon International School, Mayur Vihar. Mritula Arora, Navyug School, New Delhi. Congratulations, ma'am. Next, we have Rachna Chahar, Lotus Valley International School, Noida. Ms. Sapna Makan, Bal Bharati Public School, Rohini. Next, we have Ms. Charu Sharma. Congratulations, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Rowan. Yes, please. Please take your seats. And congratulations to all the participants. Next, we have Dave Meller, Director of Assessment and Project Lead at Alpha Plus Consultancy Limited, who will join us virtually and share the outline of the assessment framework created as part of the project. Alpha Plus is an education assessment consultancy based in Manchester, UK, worked on large number of national and international projects for school, vocational, and professional assessment. Over to you, Dave.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really pleased to be able to join you today at the end of this project, but actually at the start of a lot of the work that is taking place. I'm just going to attempt to share my screen. Bear with me a moment. Hopefully that will come through. Right. So, yeah, Alpha Plus, I'm based up in Manchester in England, and I've been working remotely with CBSE and British Council on this project to really try and embed the assessment elements of the competency-based education. So the work has been done in partnership with EEF and obviously working for British Council and for CBSE. So it's been a really interesting and exciting project to work on. The time difference has been a bit challenging sometimes, particularly when we've been running the training sessions, but I'm amazed at the enthusiasm and the engagement from the teachers and from everybody that we've been working with. So that's been really excellent. The purpose of this is to really try and train and provide some support to assessment designers and to item writers, and to produce a bank of items by those assessment writers, so the teachers that we trained, to try and support competence-based education, because we know assessment drives what gets taught. The starting point for everything is really the CBSE, the NCRT curriculum. And that curriculum documents the learning outcomes that are expected, so the skills that the students are expected to demonstrate, and details the pedagogy that teachers can use to try and embed those skills in the the curriculum that they're delivering, so that the students, instead of just coming away with a head full of facts, actually develop their ability to apply knowledge and understanding to different situations, to analyze, to evaluate the information that they're provided with, and to better prepare themselves for further study and the future of work and so on. And it's these skills that are at the heart of competency-based education. So the starting point was the NCERT curriculum, but the curriculum itself doesn't detail all of the content that needs to be taught. And the different exam boards specify that. So what we had to do was take the CBSE syllabi, the relevant syllabi, and marry that content up to the NCERT curriculum, because it's the content that the teachers are teaching to their students for those standard 10 and standard 12 examinations. And essentially what we need to define is what subject matter needs to be taught. And in order to do this, we've married these two documents together. So essentially, we've produced an assessment domain, and this is all the stuff that could be assessed. Sorry about that. It's all the stuff that could be assessed. And if you look at the extract shown here, it's class 9 science. On the left-hand side, the first two columns, you have the pedagogy and the learning outcomes from the NCERT curriculum. And then we've taken the relevant elements of the CBSE syllabus, and the third column shows that content, and it's matched to those learning outcomes. So in this case, it's about classification, and we've identified the content that matches that for the nature of matter or the living world. And then the final column details some elements of the assessment that might be appropriate to cover. So which assessment objective and what types of questions. And we'll talk a little bit more about the assessment objectives in a moment. But essentially what this shows to the teachers is how the skills and the content match up. So that tells us what the content is that needs to be covered. But what it doesn't tell us is how we should assess it. And at the start of any assessment design process, you start with some design principles. So we looked through the NARIC report and we identified some key changes and elements that we wanted to try and highlight that ought to be embedded in the assessments that we developed. And we set these out as part of the rules and limitations on what should be assessed and how it should be assessed. And those rules and limitations, there's some examples here. For those end of class assessments, it would be a written format only, because practically that's the only format that was achievable. So there's no direct assessment of science practical skills, but there will be questions in the written assessments that will assess the student's knowledge of those practical skills. And for English, it would be reading assessment only, no speaking and listening, for instance. The assessments had to be marked by the teachers to make it practical to deliver. And they needed to be aligned to the NCERT curriculum and the CBSE syllabi. They have to assess higher order skills and support the pedagogy to deliver those higher order skills. So things like analysis and evaluation. And the length have to be manageable for schools. So you don't want really long assessments because they've got to be brought into lesson time and so on. And then, as mentioned previously, things like calculators can be used. So there's some examples of some of the rules that we put in place. Once you've got those rules, you can then start to develop the assessment specifications. And the assessment specifications set out everything that you need to know to pull the assessments together. So they set out how many assessments will there be for each of the subjects, the number of questions that there would be, the type of questions there'll be, how many marks will there be in each of the assessment, how long is it going to be allowed to take the assessment. All of those things need to be documented. Are there any elements of the curriculum that won't be covered? And that needs to be specified as well. And those assessment specifications, if you're a teacher, you can take those assessment specifications and you can look at them in conjunction with the learning ladder, and you can identify what content it is that you want to assess, and then the rules for designing and creating those assessments. They also set out the assessment objectives, and the assessment objectives are really important. The assessment objectives describe the skills that the assessments are going to cover. You can't document or you can't design an assessment against the learning outcomes directly. There's too many of them and they're too granular and too detailed. But what you can do is you can pull together assessment objectives that are based on Bloom's taxonomy, which as teachers you'll be familiar with, but they've been adapted for the specific subjects. So here's an example for English, and what you can see is that they're very much focused on competency. There's virtually no recall in the English. It's all about the skills. For science and mathematics, there is some recall of knowledge, but there's a much greater emphasis on higher order skills. So for the English, if you look here, it's about interpreting and analysing unseen texts. These are assessments of students' reading ability. So it's about showing understanding of explicit and implicit meanings. It's about commenting on how the writer uses language and structure to create an effect. And it's also about communicating a personal response to the text with appropriate references. These are much higher order skills. There's no questions in the design of these assessments that who wrote this, what date was it written? It's not like that. It's a very different approach, and it supports that competency-based education. If you look, you can see the weightings change across the different classes. So there are more higher order skills in the latter classes. And for English, this is particularly important with an increased focus on literature rather than just straight reading. So the development of these assessment objectives that sit within the assessment specification allows you to then write questions that cover these assessment objectives, that cover the content set out in the domain. And that's a really important thing to do. So as part of the project, we trained 175 teachers how to write items. 3 days of remote learning with homework tasks in between, pretty intense sessions for the teachers on what does it take to write a good item, what needs to be included. And they wrote items against a commission. So we told them we wanted items for English written on this particular text or this style of text, a blog or an autobiography or a piece of travel writing. And they went and sourced the texts and they wrote the items. For science, they wrote questions against specific parts of the syllabus content and specific skills. All of those items were then pulled together into a bank of items that have been made available to teachers. And supporting that bank of items is a spreadsheet. And here's a screenshot of one of them. And it lists all of the items. So the question ID here and all of the file names. And it tells you which assessment objective it's assessing against. And it tells you, in this case for English, what sort of text is being used that ties into the assessment specification. And then there's a brief description of that text as well. For science and for maths, it will tell you what content areas are being covered. So it might be optics or it might be algebra in mathematics. So you can use this spreadsheet to identify areas of content you want to assess. So look at the learning ladder, decide what it is you want to assess, and then you can identify items as a teacher, and you can use those items in your own assessments, and they can be in a variety of different forms. So here's an example of one of the items that was created. This one happens to be a mathematics one. If you look at the item, you can see there's a little bit of detail about what subject, what class, and what the question reference is. And then it tells you how many marks there are for each of the assessment objectives. And it also tells you what content area it's covering. And for mathematics, it tells you whether it is a calculator required, or the calculator is not allowed, or whether you could have a calculator or not. It doesn't matter. And that's a change, because in modern assessment of higher order skills, those skills include the use of a calculator in maths. So one paper allows a calculator, one doesn't for the end of class assessments. Then there's a source. In this case, it's a picture of a Rubik's Cube. And then the questions, which appear on the top of the next page, and the mark scheme that goes with it. These are all available online in Word document. So as a teacher, you can say, right, I'd like to use this question. I'll just copy it and I'll paste it into my own little assessment, or I'll put it at the end of a worksheet. And then I can copy the mark scheme and I'll paste that into a separate document. And I can use that to apply the marking standard, for how to do the marking for this particular question. So these items are all available, and there are literally hundreds of these items across all the different subjects and across all the different levels for teachers to use. The overall structure and approach to the design of this is really to try and empower teachers to make use of items, but also to empower teachers to write their own items. So here's a sort of graphic image, if you like, of the assessment framework. The items in green at the top are the NCERT curriculum and the CBSE syllabus. So they're the starting point that everything's based on. And they were used to create the learning ladder. The learning ladder sets out the content, and sitting alongside that are the design principles, which are the rules for the how the assessment should be constructed. These then feed into the assessment specification, which contains the assessment objectives. The learning ladder, the assessment specification, and the assessment objectives were used to commission the item writers that we trained to produce a bank of items, and those items are available for teachers to use as they see fit. And they can use those bank of items in the end of class assessments, the topic tests, and the worksheets that they want to use. But also the teachers can actually write their own items. So you can look at the learning ladder, you can look at the assessment specification, and you can say, I want a question that's going to cover this part of the learning ladder and this assessment objective. And I'm going to write my own question for it. And sitting alongside all of these resources are a suite of 8 videos. And those videos go through at a high level the training that we delivered to assessment designers and item writers. And there's one of them on how to write good items. And then there's 3 more on different types of items, like objective questions, short answer, and extended response. And you can watch those videos as a teacher, and you can use the information that's in the assessment framework, which is all in blue, to create your own items that will help support this competency-based education that is being delivered. And those items can be used in end-of-class assessments or topic tests or worksheets. So at a really high level, that's a very quick run through of the assessment framework and how it all works. All the information is available on the microsite, and it's there at your fingertips for you to use as a teacher. I'd like to close just by saying thank you to CBSE and to the British Council for inviting us into this project and for supporting us in delivering the project. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to all the teachers who we trained. The level of engagement and professionalism was brilliant, and they've done a really good job in helping drive this project forward. I was really pleased to hear earlier that the standard 10 and 12 exams are starting to change and to introduce more higher order thinking skills, more competency-based questions. And the work that we've done here in partnership with the teachers will also help the teachers support that and that move to those higher stakes exams containing those competency-based assessments. So thank you very much for listening, everybody. I hand you back to
Thank you, Dave. That was a wonderful session. May I now request, in case if we have any question from the live audience present here or our virtual joinees, do we have any questions on the chat box?
I've scared everybody.
So Dave, we seem to have a question on the chat box. Sujata will moderate the question for you.
Okay, so we have teachers joining from all around the country for the session today, for this virtual session. And one question, Dave, is, I think, is there a link for this content that you just talked about, that you just shared here with the audience?
So yes, all the content is on the microsite. So the framework documents and all the items are available there. And I will send my slide deck over if anybody wants to have access to that. I'm sure that can be made available as well if that was useful.
Okay, and another question, I think this was when you were sharing the item writing spreadsheet, is this done unit-wise or subject topic-wise of unit chapters, was a question.
So the way the spreadsheet works, it is linked to the learning ladder. So we've not based it on the textbooks. So your starting point needs to be the learning ladder document in the framework. And that learning ladder shows all of the content that needs to be covered. So you can then identify the content reference, and then you can search on the spreadsheet for that content reference to identify the questions that you might want to use. So the learning ladder is the starting point rather than the textbooks.
Thank you, Dave. That's all. Just to add that all the teachers who are watching you virtually or connected today are all saying it's been a very interesting and informative session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Sujata. Thank you, Dave. So now let us watch a film that showcases the linkage between the various resources developed as part of this project.
Assessment. Just the word can send chills down the spine. It does not just bother the students, but the teachers and parents too. Assessments for decades have been rote-based, with very little focus on understanding or application of concepts. These may have served the needs of the past, but they are inadequate for the skills needed in today's world. The world has evolved significantly. So should the learning and assessment in our schools. The National Education Policy NEP 2020 prioritizes the shift from content to competency and provides a framework for this change. In partnership with CBSE, the British Council presents the competency-based assessment framework. Now, using this framework, teachers will be able to provide greater flexibility in the learning process. Focus on students' knowledge, skills, and understanding. Test higher order skills. Not only does it support students, but it also extends professional development for teachers as well as assessment designers. To drive this revolutionary shift, the British Council has curated a comprehensive resource bank that acts as a step-by-step guide to implementing the new assessment framework. All you have to do is log into cbseacademic.nic.in. Here, you'll find a host of resources. You can access the learning ladders, which map the syllabus content for classes 6 to 10 for English, Maths, and Science. Assessment specifications for each subject with objectives and test structure. Model questions on how to assess competencies. Question banks to help you locate the appropriate questions. A bank of lesson plans to drive competency-based education in classrooms. And tutorial videos to help you produce effective assessments. As you plan your class tests, you can use the learning ladder to identify the content, skills, or topics you wish to cover from the NCERT curriculum or CBSE syllabus. Then, take a look at the assessment specification, which describes how to create an assessment and evaluate skills. You can create tests by selecting relevant questions from the question bank, or use the question bank for end-of-topic tests and in-class worksheets. Focus on competencies means your teaching will become more interactive and individualized, with more time for higher-order thinking skills. That is why the sample lesson plans are available online to prepare you exactly for this and much more. Simply download these resources and use them creatively in your class. Have you noticed? The transformation towards competency-based teaching, learning, and assessment practices has begun. Go to cbseacademic.nic.in today. Start downloading and using these resources to make it a meaningful and positive learning experience for all.
So all these resources are available on the CBSE microsite that Chairman Sir just launched. Now moving on next, we will have a session on Introduction to UK Digital Expertise by Vipul Bhargava, Department for International Trade.
Hi, thank you very much. If you can give me a quick thumbs up to make sure you can hear me and see me.
Yes, Vipul, we can. Over.
Thank you very much. I guess a good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Vipul, and I work as an advisor to the Department for International Trade, where I lead on EdTech and independent schools. And I also have just a very few slides. I know I only have 5 minutes, but I'm going to very quickly share some slides with you with what I'm trying to talk about today. So I think the next part of the session really is for you to now get into conversations with some of the British companies following from the fantastic presentations around the competency-based project. I, for one, certainly hope that I would be in school today rather than in the 1980s, where things were very rote-based. But what I want to talk about today to you is why is UK the right sort of a partner for you, and some of the myths around the UK. So I just wanted to just sort of first set the context here. And I know, talking to Indian audience, where you're seeing Vedantu, Unacademy, Byju's come out of the world. But I just wanted to highlight one thing, which is, the edtech market is sort of worth about 252 billion, right? And it's of course rising across the world. And certainly COVID has been a massive accelerator for edtech around the world. But, as I said, you've got India and China producing the maximum number of unicorns coming out. Then you've got US and Brazil. But UK comes a very close fifth. And what I want to highlight here is just the size of the country compared to India and India, China, and the US, right? So India with 1.2 billion people, China 1.3 billion people, US with 300 million people, Brazil with 200 million people. these are large countries with large domestic population, which these companies cater to. Now we're seeing Byju's make acquisitions in the US and try to get out of India, but after a lot of success within India, and which is what made them a unicorn in the first place. But now, of course, they, are they going internationally? And we're seeing Indian companies come out. But UK, with a population of 60 million, if it's fifth, in that elite group of countries producing those edtech companies, those companies aren't designing products just for the UK market. The minute these companies are setting up, they're thinking international. And that's why a lot of the companies you're going to hear from today and over the next few days, their focus is very much international. And I'm going to talk about that in my final slide. So why is UK being able to produce so many great edtech companies? Like I said, we don't have a large domestic market, but really it probably starts off from the fact that we've got a fantastic sort of history of global education and of some great institutions in the UK. I'm sure everybody's familiar with Oxford and Cambridge being ranked consistently as the top universities, but there are 30 UK institutions in the Times ranking of 200 global universities. London continues to attract a large number of professional developers compared to any of the major tech capitals, right? So, of course, when you got a lot of tech developers coming into London and the UK broadly, it just results in more edtech companies being created, right? Because you got more tech talent. There's also a big ecosystem that's being developed, and what we haven't talked about is what's happened post-COVID. We've got the Department of Education as well that is putting a lot of effort into developing an edtech strategy. So the whole ecosystem is improving. We've got edtech accelerators that are not just focusing on British organizations, but also global organizations. So a lot of international companies are coming to the UK, setting up base here, and using some of these edtech accelerators. Of course, we've got BISA, which is an industry a body for edtech companies, and everything is sort of quality checked, which results in high quality companies being a part of BISA. And as a result, top 20 fastest growing edtech companies are coming from the UK, which again attests to why UK is in the top 5. I'm not sure if some of you have had an opportunity to come to BET, but BET is one of the world's largest education technology conferences, happens every January, which again showcases the best of education technology. So education technology really for UK has been quite a strong pillar. I've been in this industry now for 15 years, and certainly when it was not so cool, unlike post-COVID, and UK has been an early adopter of edtech. And that is, again, evident in how UK companies are leading the way when it comes to edtech. What I wanted to do is sort of leave you with a few things, which I know people think about constantly. First thing is UK companies think about international growth. I think I mentioned that right from inception, and hence are very flexible. So think flexible in terms of language. If we have a requirement for a local language, UK companies sort of designing the products increasingly that are flexible. When it comes to partnerships, if you're working with somebody, you need the UK company to partner with somebody else. Very open, very flexible. And they've got experience of doing this across the world. I, in my role, work with a lot of ministries, and a lot of UK companies are talking to ministries working across the world. And so a lot of international experience in doing that. One thing I kept getting, in my conversations around the world was a perception that UK edtech products are expensive. I just want to say that they're not expensive anymore. As the cost of technology has gone down, these are more tech-based products. Actually, these products, UK products, are as competitive as probably any other part of the world. So I wouldn't think that at all. But have a conversation with the companies to see what works. And most importantly, what we've realized that increasingly post-COVID, as technology becomes more pervasive, we need schools to think about edtech products from an efficacy perspective. So you're not implementing technology for technology's sake, but focusing on the outcome of teaching and learning. And a lot of UK edtech products are have been tested, and they're focusing on efficacy, which will hopefully drive better learning outcomes for children. So I just wanted to sort of give a preamble of why you should consider the UK. If you have any questions, of course, you can reach out to me, but I won't take too much time. I think we should get on to the business of the day, which is you hearing from some of these great British companies. So thank you very much. And of course, if any questions, I'll be around. Thank you.
Thank you, Vipul, for the useful insight and to set the context for our first EdTech presentation of the event by Mr. Chintu Varghese, Chief Operating Officer from Tabi Limited. Tabi Limited is a UK-based education technology platform. Primary focus is teaching and assessment. Their first product is Tabi Math that focuses on mathematics. Tabi Math has a school module for teachers and students and a self-revision module for students. Over to you, Mr. Varghese.
Share my screen. Google. Already have this one here. No, not that one. You have to go to just open Google Chrome. And just share the screen. Is that Google Chrome? Oh. It's Edge, but are you sure? Just 1 second. Just. Okay. Can I share my screen? Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chintu Varghese. I head operations for Tabi Limited, based out of London. Our first foray into subject-wise is mathematics, and hence Tabi Math. We are now starting to build a framework for natural sciences and foundation years, nursery to grade 2. Along with me, join online Abraham Prakash. He heads our content and academic affairs, and Rema Varghese, who heads the product design. Tabi today, we operate from grade 3 to grade 12. And we have got a benchmark prep module as well. The benchmark prep module is primarily to prepare your students for exams such as assessments such as PISA or international Olympiads and international assessment exams. That is fundamentally an assessment platform, right, for teaching and learning that is based on the formative and adaptive assessment approach. We work with about 70 schools today on an annual subscription basis. We went live with our current version early 2019. We've just been selected after detailed due diligence by a group in India that manages about 150 schools. So we're starting with them to bring on board the initial batch of 50 schools on a POC, following which we will bring on the rest of the 100 schools in early next year. The way I'm going to run the session today is I'll be rushing through it because I'm trying to show you in 9 minutes, I guess, what I would normally show in 90 minutes. So please bear with me. What I'm going to show you today is our teachers module. Let me just log in. Great. taking a while to log in. I don't know why. My password is right. It will log in. Yeah. So we operate from grade 3 to grade 12. Like I said, you see all the classes we operate. At a very simple level, right? We offer worksheets. So each class or each grade has got about 200 worksheets that are set up by teachers already who work with us. The worksheets have got foundation level worksheets that are end of chapter worksheets and mock exams. These are already prepared for you, right? You can click on the worksheet, see the questions, you can see the answers to the questions, the detailed solutions, and you can publish it to students. The most widely used feature within Tabi Math is the custom practice, right? Massive usage on that from all the schools and teachers who operate on that. I'm going to go into custom practice. What custom practice allows you to do is gives the teacher the full flexibility to pick and choose from whatever kind of items you want to build into your assessment paper or your worksheet or homeworks, right? There are two options, using Blueprint and without Blueprint. And without Blueprint, what you do is, I'm just going to give it the name CBSE OD1, and then I'm going to just move into it. So what it does is, there are different kinds of, if you see here on the top, your default to standard 10, you've got all the chapters listed there, you've got your topics listed there, you can choose by mark. So for example, if you say, I'm going to look at polynomials, and I want 2 marks questions in polynomials, you click on that and you click on search, it should give you 2 marks questions in polynomials, right? That makes it very much easy for the teacher to think through and go through it, right? What you do is, let's say that, ignore the marks part, let's say you want to then say, I want to look at taxonomy, right? So on the top, you have the remembering understanding, which is knowledge and understanding. And then you go into the bottom, which is the higher order thinking, or rather the application of your knowledge and understanding. And you say, here, I want in polynomials 2 marks, I want applying kind of questions, which is to test the higher order thinking within my students, right? And then it gives you the question. What you can do then is basically, if you want to see the question, you click on the eye, it then shows you the question. At the top, if you want to edit the question, the teacher is allowed to edit the question. It doesn't edit the base question, but what it does is it basically edits that question, saves an instance for you, right? You see the question, the answer options, and the solution. Now, you can basically add the questions as in, when you wish. If you want MCQ questions, you click on MCQ and add those questions. If you want to then add, difficulty level, which is the complexity of the question, what you can do is say that I want intermediate complexity questions. Let's say in, introduction to trigonometry, and you click search, it shows you that, right? So what I'm trying to say is all those combinations are available. Now, what we've done now is for CBE, we started to build the standards, and we've been working on it for a while, right? And if you go, there's a toggle switch there for teachers. If you click on CBE there, it takes you right into the CBE structure items, which is based on the learning ladder that CBSE and British Council have jointly developed. Here, if you go into custom practice, for example, what it lets you do is, I'm going to go into the without the blueprint, and then you say CBSE A2. I'll show you the difference, because earlier we saw chapter and topics, which is standard, right? But here, if you look at it, you have number systems under domain, you click operations and algebra thinking, and you see those, the different chapters there. At the same time, you see the standards. These are the standards that are defined within the learning ladder. Now, you can basically click on that and click search, and you get the questions. Now, if you look at it, right, we have split those items based on level of rigor, because every kid is not the same, right? Each kid requires a different level of question. Now, you look at, you say level 2, and you click on search. It gives you those questions that are, based on level 2. You can click on it. Most of those questions are, come with an image, because, that's what's required to connect those students to the real life applications, familiar situations, unfamiliar situations. Just like in earlier custom practice, you can add those questions. You just need to click plus, you can add those questions onto the top there. It adds it, right? If you need to publish it, right, what happens, right, after all this is done? I'm just going to go back into the, non-CBE bit and then show you, because a lot of schools that we work with, right, they're not there in terms of the CBE implementation yet. So we've given them both the options as a toggle switch, so you can swap between the two. You can, in a few weeks, you can swap and combine those questions from both these areas, because we're looking at each of those items and then trying to see which of those can be kind of used in the CBE. what we have got here is something called, within custom practice, we've built something called blueprint, right? Mr. Ahuja, chairman, he referred to blueprints, right? So what we've done is we've built a blueprint feature for teachers because the very large schools we work with don't want to bring in a lot of standardization. So what you do is you go in there and you click custom practice, and you basically say there's using blueprint. These are just preset blueprints that teachers have created as a sample. You can click view, right? There is an admin section where you can create a blueprint for yourself based on whatever number of questions you need from chapters or topics. If you see here, this is a preset blueprint, you just click on auto generate. What it does is for the teacher is that it generates, it chooses the questions based on what you have prescribed, right? What you can do then is scroll down, and you have the ability, if you want to delete that question, you can delete that question, and then you can add that just like in custom practice. You can do that, right? Now, let's say that you've done all this, and what happens to, let me just go up. What happens to all the work that you do here? There has to be an output, right? So we really thought through about the output, and this comes in from also a lot of work we do with universities. So we've been working with University of Chicago for almost 2 years now. University of South Florida has just inquired about us. There are a lot of people who want to come into education at a later stage. They've had a lot of experience. They want to add on a degree, an exec MBA, a Doctor of Business Administration. And a lot of these case studies from Harvard, Kellogg, it requires you to have a lot of analysis, right? That requires mathematical and statistics skills. So we said for us to think about, allow teachers to assess what is actually happening with all the work that I've given my teachers. We created what we call thematic report. Thematic report is very much a banking term, right? So I used to work for a bank for years. What thematic report does, it gives you the right kind of insights into where you are in that process as a teacher in terms of where are the subject gaps for your students. We've made that as easy as possible for you, and it's evolving. So here, if you look at it, it tells you as soon as you log in, defaulted to standard 4. I'm going to go into standard 10. It tells me total number of assignments done in standard 10 is 12. The number of 33 students have completed it. 18 students have not attempted. 85 distinct questions were asked, and the class score is 53. That's my demo account. If you scroll down, right, what it does for you, it's basically telling you that across these chapters, that's the student score, that's the distinct questions asked. You can view that by domain as well, right? Because we now map the questions and the chapters to domains, right? So you can view that by domain, which tells you across that domain, that is a high level, that is the average score per class. If you want to look at that by topic, you can click the topic. All these reports are real time. There's no manual intervention. It's fundamentally intelligent programming that gives you that data. So now for that chapter, you get in the breakdown of that chapter saying that that's the topics by topic. That is a student score. That's a distinct question. Now, if I just go back into the chapter view and I say the revised Bloom's taxonomy, right? So you want to look at the taxonomy wise, how your kids are performing. Then you go into the class usage report. It gives you a taxonomy-wise view. More importantly, it tells you exactly, okay, student score is 20%. I am just sample data. So constructions, student score is 100% on applying, but there are only 1 questions asked, right? But if you look at over a period of, let's say 3 to 6 months, you work with your students on homeworks, assessments, periodic tests, unit tests. This data is very powerful, giving you a view on, where the actual potentially the gaps are for your student. And that allows a teacher to think really creatively, to say, what do I need to do, right? To make sure that I can create an impact there. So now on the top, you have all the revised Bloom's taxonomy levels. If, however, you want to look at it at a complexity level, you click on proficiency and it builds for you at that level as well. Because all the items we have, it's not just mapped to that taxonomy, it's also mapped to a difficulty level, right? Complexity level, sorry. So that it's easy for you to look at it from both those dimensions, right? So there you go, intermediate, basic, and advanced. It gives you that view. Now, let's say that you want to go into where each student is, right? So that's your class usage report. Then you get into Rishi Verghese is a student there. You get into that student, And then what it does, it starts to build a picture for that specific student. Not just the number of assignments completed or attempted, it gives you that individual student view. I will just go into the overall view. If you see that, right, the overall progress, that's based on domain. It gives a view on that student, the student score, and compares that to class score. Now, if you don't want the comparison, you can remove that, but it gives you all the data there. But if you scroll down, it gives you the overall progress. So some of the schools that have been working with us, they can go back to the last academic year and see a complete profile across multiple domains, how their students have actually progressed through that domain, right? If you go down, you can see each of the assignments that have been completed by the student, where you click on, for example, polynomials test, you click on it, it shows the score for that student automatically color-coded, so it's easy for the teachers. At the same time, it also tells you, what each of those students scored, right? And it completely maps it out for you. Now, that's basically the output, right? But then one of the things that we always get is there are descriptive questions, right? We're never going to be on this MCQ objective question. We will eventually, come out of this COVID, and we will get into a state where we should have the ability for teachers to comment and provide the notes on these MCQ, the descriptive questions. What we've done is we've made real-time commenting possible, right? So I'll just show you as an example how that works, right? So I showed you the digital reports, right? But what the system does is, as and when the students respond, it automatically tabulates it. It puts the color coding on it. So for a large class, when you see it, is green, the student got the answer right, the marks are allocated. Amber, the student got the answer wrong. Now, if you need, for example, it's a 3-mark question, and you want to basically give it, 1 mark for the steps, you can do that. The students would have uploaded whatever they've uploaded as part of their, workings. You can basically click on it, and then you can put a tick mark. This is a basic laptop, no fancy laptops or iPads or anything required. If you want to put your comments in there, you can just click on the T and then put that comment in there and say that, yeah, so you can do that, and then you click on save. That will be saved. That will be saved for the entire duration of the academic year for the student and the teacher. If at any point the teacher wants to download whatever CBSE requires you to submit, or anybody else asks you, that's already available for the teacher. I will just go back, exit. So all that data is made available to you. The other thing is the digital reports that I showed you, they're all printable. So you can go in there, and then you say that, you switch to admin, you click on thematic report, and then you basically say that, I want to print that. If you just click on print, it basically aligns all that you require in a print format that you can print and file, right? Be it for a class or student or whatever it is. If you, however, want to also email parents about the performance, you click on that email feature there, and it allows you to email it to parents, all right? On the CBE side, we have gone live with term 1 portions, class 3 to class 8. 9 and 10 will go live in the next 2 weeks. And for term 2, we will be a month. We will be in a month's time. We will have the questions on MCQs, and that will go live as well. But fundamentally, we are ready. Somebody needs to plug in, otherwise the next person is not going to get to present. So that's fundamentally Tabi. We're not providing videos. We're not doing that. We are a pure assessment platform, right? We're not providing videos, but that doesn't mean you can't have access to videos. What we've done is the team is constantly looking on the web. There are hundreds of thousands of videos that are well rated, right? Which you necessarily don't have to pay for. So what my team's done is basically they have we've added some resources in there, which are video links specific to chapters or topics that you're required to teach. And if you want to choose those videos, absolutely, you can just publish those videos to the students, right? So that's up to you. Just one more thing I want to show you, and then I will take questions. We've been over the last 2 years.
Sorry,
Vipul, but if we can move on to the question and answer round,
okay.
we have other EdTech also waiting for them.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, fine. One of the things I wanted to mention was that we can do time tests on it. You can set the test for next day, and then basically you can set up for next week or whatever. It runs the entire time test for you and consolidates the results. Thank you very much. Sorry if not take another minute. Open for questions. We have Abraham, Prakash, and Rema on the on Zoom as well, but happy to take questions.
So in case if we have any question from the live audience present here, or Sujata, if we have any questions from the chat box, can we have the mic for the lady here?
Yeah, good afternoon. So I wanted to ask you how, as an organization, we have an access to this platform.
As a school?
As a school, yeah.
Yeah, ma'am, basically, there are two ways. One, if you reach out to, we set up the school, we need about 2 days to set up the school and the students and teachers in the platform. But if you will reach out to the British Council, I think they have the details. They will put you in touch with us. We can guide you through the process. Yeah, at the moment, there is an introductory offer. We want more schools to come out and try it out. So 1 month, we train you from the point of finishing the first training. And after you set up on the platform, you got 30 days to use it. You just need to sign an NDA because the content is taking a lot of time to build, especially the CBE ones. You know how hard it is. But I hope I answered your question.
Right, sir. Is it only for mathematics, or are you planning for?
We are planning for natural sciences and foundational years, but that we've just started building the framework for it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Sujata, can we have just one more question from the chat box?
Yeah. So many of them are actually asking whether this is an app and is it downloadable? And another is that there are a plethora of such apps. Issue is pandemic-based temporary situation. So what will the utility of such an app be for a CBSE, from a CBSE teacher student perspective?
Yeah, so ma'am, we are not an app. I'll answer the first question. We are still a web-based platform. The app is going to be released for teachers, students, and parents in December this year. So we're still web-based, right? We're 2 years old. In terms of the utility, right? So what we hear from teachers is that the time saving is significant, because then they know where the items are, they know what items to use to test, but at the same time, they get the output. They get to see exactly where the subject gaps are. Right. And that is also saving a lot of time and productivity, which the teachers are saying that I know there's an issue there, but I don't have to go elsewhere to close that gap. Right. I've still got the content here in Tabi Math to go and close that gap because the different level of rigor questions are there. So teachers would need to use it and then analyze the data so that they then know exactly where the issue is and then continue using it. So the utility part of it is evident to the teachers.
Yeah, many of them have appreciated this feature that you just spoke about. But like ma'am here, the question many are asking is there a Tabi for English or for social studies? Or are you coming up with?
What I know is that the primary focus now is the Tabi for natural sciences and the foundational years. And then following that for English, these are questions that every principal who work with us, they ask us, because it's purely because they've been using it for almost 2 years now, and they know how easy it's made their teachers' lives and the value to students. Even parents are excited because they now know that it's not just my son or daughter is not good for math, he's good at trigonometry, but it's just a problem with geometry, right? That distinction, teachers are able to explain to parents and make an impact there.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you, Sujata. We will not take any more questions here, but we will answer to all the virtual questions separately. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burgess, for the wonderful session. We quickly now move on to our next EdTech presentation by Mo Mirza, Chief Experience Officer, GoLearn Education. For educators who want to deliver positive literacy outcomes in a changing world, GoLearn is a better-minded online company that provides an effective and visible companion to individual progress and improvements for teachers and students.
Just for the interest of everybody, I would like to emphasize that please keep up to the time of 10 minutes and do not go beyond, because we will have to abruptly close the sessions if not kept to the time. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. Can everybody hear me there?
Yes, we can. Please continue.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your time today, and I will do my best to keep it to 10 minutes as recommended. My name is Mo Mirza. I look after customer experience here at GoLearn Education. It's wonderful to be speaking with you today from here in the UK. If you're not already familiar with us, GoLearn is a UK-based specialist English literacy and language solution that uses a unique combination of pedagogy and technology and advanced curriculum mapping to support teachers deliver high-quality, competency-based lessons to students, both in the classroom and remotely, and make easy real progress in the key skills students need for lifelong learning. We launched our version 1 platform in September 2020 after many years of research and development, and with the support and goodwill of so many schools and educators around the world, in particular, it's nice to say in India, where we've had the good fortune to work with some truly outstanding teachers and schools and organizations.
The volume was going up and I didn't know how far you were from finishing. And you always tell me off.
Can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay, well, we launched our platform in September last year, as I said, and we worked with some really fantastic teachers, schools and organizations across India. We've come a long way with our solution since last year's launch, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to everybody involved so far for your continued support. So our purpose at GoLearn is to give every child in the world an equal opportunity to transform their lives by supporting schools and teachers and enabling better learning outcomes and greater well-being for all. Over the past year, we've continued our work to better meet the challenges being faced by the many stakeholders in education today. GoLearn has very quickly expanded into a total of 15 markets, including, of course, the UK, but across the Middle East, Russia, China, South Africa, and importantly in Sweden, which is a top-ranking PISA country and where we've just completed a number of trials and are now beginning our planned nationwide rollout with local government partners to help students progress to higher education. These are all regions where COVID has had a significant impact on teaching and learning. And through our partnerships and discussions in India, our work with groups like the Indian Army and other private schools where we've already been working, and our team have researched and understood the challenges of implementing a new curriculum in a new way. And we've identified the areas where GoLearn can really support teachers on a meaningful level, both in the classroom and beyond, to make competency-based education accessible and practical for all teachers, and help make it easier to deliver results in the 21st century classroom and ensure progress for every student. So to quote the team at CBSE and the British Council, this project's vision is for secondary students to experience deep learning in the classroom, where they can acquire the skills they need to succeed in higher education and the global workplace, and they can prove their capability through effective assessment that challenges them to demonstrate their skills. GoLearn is fully aligned with this vision. To deliver on this vision and ensure low-cost, scalable and sustainable outcomes is where the challenge has been, particularly with the additional stresses of a global pandemic. And that's where our team have focused our efforts in developing a robust solution to support all teachers in the CBSE family. At GoLearn, we're now helping teachers ensure every single English lesson from grade 4 through to 11 is mapped to the right pedagogical, curriculum, learning and assessment outcomes out of the box. And that with confidence, English teachers at CBSE schools can teach their classes with the support of an embedded resource that will build student mastery and deep learning in the key skills needed to build confident learners ready to join a global community. And we do this through a process called continuous assessment. So, unlike other platforms, our solution does not separate learning from assessment, with both assessment for learning and assessment of learning taking place continuously and effortlessly throughout the year. In each lesson, teachers can free up valuable time to focus on developing engaging learning experiences, again, both in the classroom and beyond. Our solution provides easy to understand, clearly presented, powerful decision-making data for school owners, principals, teachers, and parents. Our continuous assessment data is highly valuable for school strategy development, implementation, and improvement. All GoLearn data, and in fact the entire platform, is validated and underpinned by current and leading evidenced pedagogies, and fully compliant to international standards of data protection and safety. This granular and in-depth learning data, it's gathered every time a student interacts with the platform and is mapped to the key skills in reading, writing, listening, grammar, and higher order thinking skills, so teachers can easily pinpoint each student's learning needs and target their teaching efficiently and with minimal fuss. A common thread in all our discussions with schools worldwide is the fact that teachers face the challenge of increased workload in trying to cope with the many requirements of effectively delivering a competency-based education. We know learners need to have deep literacy skills in order to be creative, innovative, enterprising, and ready for the global workplace. And with continuous assessment, we now have a solution for you, ready to measure your progress at every step of the journey. GoLearn was developed to actively reduce teacher workload. So how do we do it? Well, we give teachers fully planned and developed courses of study from grades 4 through to 11, with thousands of lessons expertly written and produced by experienced educators in the UK, and mapped to CBSE and international curricula, and aligned with the NEP 2020 and also PISA objectives. Students are guided through their lessons on the platform as they would be a traditional exercise book or workbook, unit by unit, chapter by chapter, lesson by lesson, task by task. Lessons are completed online or offline on a range of devices, on 3G, 4G, and Wi-Fi, so it's an online browser, either in the classroom or from home. Each GoLearn lesson includes a variety of differentiated task types, engaging topics with clear learning objectives, outcomes, and instructions, teacher instructions for every lesson. Teachers have access to detailed lesson plans to teach from, complete with embedded tasks and exercises for students to demonstrate the skills they've learned. For example, you can teach myths and legends to your grade 6 class to introduce grammar, language and linguistic skills, where students practice reading, writing, listening, and grammar through different task types. It's not just multiple choice. We have a range of different task types. Whereas for perhaps the higher grades, the skills required are deeper understanding and appreciation of linguistic skills, and also the need for more knowledge-based learning. And so, for example, we have Shakespeare and other literature, and more cultural titles can easily be incorporated. In short, it's a classroom resource teachers can actually teach from day to day. Around the world, teachers who are using GoLearn quickly report incredible ongoing progress in their learners, in the many sub-skills for reading and writing, sub-skills which have a direct cross-curricular impact on learning. These are lifelong skills like being able to analyze a text, understand for meaning and significance, evaluation, inference, and critical and creative thinking. Additionally, GoLearn gives teachers the visibility, the autonomy, and the authority to address learning gaps without unnecessary delay, and to further personalize every student's learning journey without the pressure of extra work. In fact, we've estimated that GoLearn will reduce a teacher's unnecessary workload by over 15 hours every week, whilst delivering great national and international level outcomes. Reducing workload is a key component of how GoLearn supports teachers around the world, but we know that there's room to go even further. While countries like Sweden have had years to master competency-based education, and depending where you stand, the art or science of formative assessment, we know there are still millions of teachers around the world struggling to cope with the challenges of delivering this new way of teaching and learning. Throughout our research and development, we've taken a lot of that expertise and knowledge and integrated it within our solution for schools and governments to ensure school leaders and teachers can hit the ground running from day one. Like continuous assessment, we provide continuous support and have a comprehensive onboarding and CPD framework to provide technical, pedagogical, curriculum, and teaching support throughout your journey with GoLearn, which extends to all stakeholders. To summarize, GoLearn is an affordable, high-impact, deep learning solution perfectly aligned to this project and wider efforts worldwide to support better teaching and learning. Although we're starting with English language and literacy, our focus on continuous assessment will lead us very shortly to other languages and subjects like maths and sciences, and also for early years learning. It's an honor to be recognized as part of this important project. We look forward to building new relationships with schools, educators, and leading organizations across India. And to reflect our commitment to improving well-being for all stakeholders, we'd like to offer an extended free trial of our platform for all CBSE schools. And for those schools that are really struggling with finances, we commit to extending your free access for as long as you need it. If you're interested in a free trial and would like to arrange a demo, please visit the link below, which is golearn.guru/CBSE. Or if you have any questions, you can email one of our helpful team on learnmore@golearn.guru. Thank you once again to all the organizers and attendees of this Project Open Day. It's been a pleasure presenting to you today.
Sujata, do we have any questions on the chat box?
No questions as such, just some observations saying that they are happy to see that there are applications that aren't just student-centered, but also take care of what the teachers have to do. So everybody's appreciative of this. And
thank you, Sujata.
No
do we have any question from the live audience here? Please, ma'am. So, ma'am, after the event, we will be sharing all the EdTech companies catalog with all the attendees of the event. And then you can get in touch with the EdTech companies and go ahead. So now we quickly take a 5 minutes break, and can we have the library video? Meanwhile, we'll try to fix the technical glitch and then move on to the next presentation with Cambridge. Can we have the library video?
I'm delighted that the British Council, in partnership with the Central Board of Secondary Education, is working on competency-based education.
Rote learning has been a common practice in schools across India.
I'm delighted that the British Council, in partnership with the Central Board of Secondary Education, is working on competency-based education.
Rote learning has been a common practice in schools across India. A system defined by memorization. A system that focuses more on content-based learning.
We stand alongside the Indian government to bring the best of UK expertise and knowledge to support the implementation of the National Education Policy 2020 in schools across the country through this project.
The new National Education Policy 2020 envisages a significant shift in the education ecosystem in India. It aims at preparing students for the 21st century and lays emphasis on competency-based education rather than an education which tests rote learning. CBSE has had a collaboration with the British Council and through it 3 agencies, Cambridge, NARIC and Alpha Plus, who are helping CBSE in attaining this objective.
With the visionary National Education Policy 2020, the focus has now shifted from content to competency. The new policy calls for a breakdown in artificial barriers between subjects and development of higher order thinking skills. It highlights the need for an assessment system that encourages real learning. Competency-based learning enables high-quality education in real-life context. It emphasizes on predefined competencies at each level of the student's learning journey and takes them beyond the confines of their textbook, linking their learning to life.
We've worked to ensure that the assessments which will be created assess both the higher order thinking skills, such as analysis and evaluation, and the recall and application of knowledge. We've taken good practice from a variety of sources and worked with CBSE experts to design a framework which will deliver valid assessment of these higher order skills and which will be well aligned to the learning outcomes set out in the NCERT curriculum.
To support competency-based education, British Council entered into a partnership with the Central Board of Secondary Education in March 2020 and launched the Competency-Based Education Project. As a part of this project, British Council and its knowledge partner Alpha Plus, in partnership with CBSE India, present the Competency-Based Assessment Framework. Designed in collaboration with UK experts, the assessment framework provides professional development to education system leaders, teachers, and examination designers.
Our role is to support master trainers and DSTAG mentors with the skills that they need to support teachers in the rollout of competency-based learning into the classroom. Our approach combines international expertise from the Faculty of Education, along with deep local knowledge from our Cambridge International team in India, to help produce a bespoke program that is aligned with the CBSE curriculum.
Under the direction and guidance of CBSE, the project uses assessment as a driver and motivator of change in teaching quality in the classroom.
The unique feature of this project is its whole system approach that focuses on creating an enabling environment. It helps CBSE in change management. It teaches for the continuous professional development.
Overall, the competency-based education project provides mentorship support for the teachers, embeds new learning into classroom teaching practice, guides reading, English, maths and science teachers of classes 6 to 10 to drive practical learning, strengthens the capacity of schools to create high-quality competency-based question papers.
The project team combined a document review with on-the-ground experience, meeting with students, teachers and CBSE staff. We focus on Standard 10 for maths, science and reading, comparing to well-established international education systems. The final report made a number of recommendations to enhance teaching, curriculum design, and, in particular, assessment.
The Competency-Based Education Project aims to bring about systemic change in teaching, learning, and assessment practices by 2024. The project will not only make a lasting impact on the education ecosystem, but will also help students realize their potential so that they can fully contribute to making the country and the world safe, sustainable, prosperous, and peaceful.
I thank all the UK knowledge partners and the teachers and education experts in both countries who've worked to make the project happen. I'm sure that it will make a positive contribution to enabling high quality teaching to improve the learning experience and outcomes of all students in CBSE schools. British Council is committed to supporting India's education sector and its knowledge ambitions. We've been working in education for more than 70 years here, and this continuing rich and fruitful association brings benefit to both our countries.
Sumit? Sumit?
Abdul CP presentation ना
Presentation चल रही है? Abdul, can you please call everyone back?
Yeah.
Starting with the section. Question you project to know the क्या problem है?
Start visibility from beginning.
Request you all to please take your seats so that we can resume the session. So we are now moving on to the presentation on CBE, Competency-Based Education Pedagogy, Principles and Practice by Cambridge Partnership for Education. They will deliver a session in a hybrid format with Nivedita Bose, Regional Senior Education Manager, Cambridge International, present here, and Stephen McGill, Senior Education Advisor, Cambridge Partnership for Education, and Mark Neeson, Head of Professional Development, Cambridge Partnership for Education, will join her for the session virtually. Barsha, can we check if Mark and Steve have logged in, and they will start with the session virtually.
You know, we've logged in, and I hope you can hear us okay.
I'm here as well.
Can I just check that you can hear us clearly? So I'm just checking that.
Mark and Steve, over to you. You can start.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much for making the time for.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we just start in a minute. Mark, would you like to share your screen as we discussed?
Yeah, no, but if you can hear us, we'll go with the slides that you've got.
Screen share.
Yes. Varsha, can we make Mark as co-host and he'll be sharing the screen?
There you go. Next. I can see mine already showing. Nivedita, are you ready to start now?
Mark, can you try sharing your screen now?
It is sharing. I can see it on the Zoom link on the YouTube channel.
Hi, Mark, it's Amy. I don't know if it's just my Wi-Fi, but I think we're just having a bit of a glitch. So hopefully we'll get that sorted soon.
Mark, we can't hear you.
For you personally, your voice is quite distorted from my end. I don't know if it's your headset. I don't know if that would help, sort of taking it off, but not
Helping
sure.
now. Sorry.
Yeah, Mark.
That's much better.
There you go.
Mark, can you hear me at all?
I can, yes.
Nivedita, can you hear me as well? So I don't know whether you're actually hearing me in the room in Delhi.
I'm not sure that we're coming through in the room.
No.
Mark, if you can just try one more time, if you can share the screen as we'll have Nivedita start the session from here.
Okay.
So Nivedita or Pinal, I don't know whether you can get the audio from our end. Can you give us
we can see your screen.
Hear us?
Mark, but the projector is not.
Can you see my screen now?
Mark, just to check, you can still hear me, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like the audio in the room.
I think there seems to be an issue with the projector and also the sound.
Is my voice better now? It's not.
Yeah, Mark, it's clearer now. Yeah.
Preeti, would you want to? Yes, so I think, Mark, we're facing a lot of technical difficulties. So we just share it from here and start the presentation.
Nivedita, just thanks for setting up the slides. Can you confirm that you can hear us in the room? Mark, I'm just asking Priti just to pass on a message that the audio seems to be a problem at the room end. So.
Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Great deep apologies for the technical glitches, but there were some powers which are not in our hands. I suspect that there's been a very happy rat who has lived here and eaten up our wires on top, because it's going to need, I think, step ladders and to get this technical glitch sorted in that sense. And I also extend my apologies to the rats because of the end of COVID and us coming back was disturbing the ecosystem once again in that respect. So what we are going to suggest, this is particularly for each of the 3 days, our event in terms of content was the same. It was to give opportunity to the 25,000 schools to choose the day that they wanted to be with us. My deepest apologies to the schools that were here today. And my request to them is we will send you the link for tomorrow so that you're able to join us to see the presentation on EdTech that you would have missed today. And to the EdTech company who was with us today and could not present, we will adjust their presentation for tomorrow so that we are all able to see them properly without distractions. We have the engagements as we would like to have it. Because I think the content of what we're doing is extremely, extremely important. And we don't want that the schools miss out on this particular opportunity. So, we'd like you to, we'll be closing this session today. We'll do a quick round of coordination. And please, those who are here today and could not see the last two presentation and the Cambridge's presentation, which was also very, very important and relevant to with resources that were of use for everyone. Do log in from your homes. And hopefully you'll have a smoother session tomorrow. So with that, I'd like to say thank you very much and hope that we are able to warm up our engines after COVID and have a much smoother time going ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I request everyone to come out in the cafeteria and join us for high tea? Thank you.